another 25% of this electorate.
Harry Creamer, Port Macquarie. My question is for each candidate, should they choose to answer it. What is your understanding of the term intergenerational equity? Do you agree that after nearly 6 years of coalition government, this concept has been contemptuously neglected? And if successful, what would you do about it?
That's a great question, and of course it relates to the fact that governments of both sides of politics have spent more than they earned running up huge debts that will have to be paid for by our children and grandchildren through an impending economic crisis. So intergenerational equity, part of the basis of it is that each government should pay its own way and not just kick the can down the road for someone else to take care of it. It's a very big issue. I'll be brief, hand it on.
Okay. You can look at intergenerational equity. That's a polite way of saying it. You can also look at it as intergenerational theft. And one of the biggest areas of intergenerational theft is in relation to climate change, and it's not just what they're being the libs and nats are doing in relation to carbon emissions. It's also too with the tree felling, which we particularly see around here. And it also extends to even things like the National Broadband Network. That is one of the biggest infrastructure projects ever proposed in this country, that was started by Labor, and parts of this area have it very, very good, but the libs and nats tore it down, and future generations are going to have to pay for that disgraceful piece of public policy. But the biggest one is climate change, and the issue there, as I said, it's not only in relation to the world in which we live, it's the problems that we're going to be facing in years like 2100. And if you look at the sea level rise maps for this part of the world, sea level rises in Port Macquarie, it's going to be one of the worst affected areas on the state. Many parts of the Port Macquarie CBD will have to move, or levee banks will have to be built. Port Macquarie Airport will have to be relocated. There are some very, very significant problems, and we can prevent that. But if we don't, then we're going to be paying more in the decades down the road than dealing with it now and fixing the problem now. And I regard that as generational theft or total generational inequity.
It's very hard to find an actual figure that we were in debt for, but there was a Labor candidate on television the other day said 485 billion. A figure I saw was closer to $1 trillion. And a prospect of an economic collapse is very, very real. If you elect me, I'm going to do everything I can to prevent it.
Thanks, Harry. This has largely been answered, but I guess the only point I'd add is that one of the reasons I've come, and it's actually the core reason of why I've come back, is it's very easy for us all, and it's an important issue, to get stuck into cost of living debates. What is the harder but more substantial question is standard of living debates. And that's where the politics gets difficult, but that is the most important work we can do in any parliamentary life. It troubles me greatly that we are at peak standard of living, that the generation, my children, my grandchildren, will have a lower standard of living than we have today. And largely because of our actions. If we do some things slightly differently now, we can make a better place for our children and grandchildren. And it astounds me that politics doesn't acknowledge that and continues to turn a blind eye to that. So yes, it's the topics of climate change, NBN, Treaty or Uluru Statement, any number of issues. But fundamentally, from my point of view, I think the core business of a parliament at its best is working on a better standard of living. And whilst cost of living is sort of the day-to-day debate, it should not cloud that long-term work that is so important at the heart of intergenerational equity.
I'll keep it brief. Vote Greens.